December 24th, 1914. Western Front, Belgium. The war is 5 months old. Over 100,000 soldiers are dug into trenches across miles of front line, cold, muddy, and in some places less than 50 yards from the enemy. That night, British soldiers heard Germans singing carols across no man's land. Lanterns appeared. Small fir trees lit up along the enemy trench line. At first light on Christmas morning, German soldiers climbed out of their trenches, unarmed, and walked toward the Allied lines, calling out, "Merry Christmas." The British thought it was a trick. Then they climbed out too, and they shook hands. What followed? Exchanged gifts, shared food, impromptu football in no man's land, and joint burial of the dead. Pope Benedict had already tried to make an official truce happen and been flatly ignored by every government involved. Nobody ordered this. Nobody sanctioned it. It just happened. And then, a few days later, they went back to killing each other. That's the story. Those are the facts. Here's the part I can't get past. The war had broken out in July 1914. By Christmas, what everyone had promised would be over in months had turned into something no one had a name for yet. Millions of men were dug in along hundreds of miles of front. The trenches were cold, flooded, thick with mud. In some sectors, the two sides were close enough to hear each other cough. They had been trying to kill each other since August. In early December, Pope Benedict XV had appealed to the leaders of Europe to call an official Christmas ceasefire. He asked that the guns may fall silent at least upon the night the angels sang. Every government ignored him, so what happened on Christmas Eve was not diplomatic. It was not strategic. It was not sanctioned by anyone with rank or authority. It started with a song. A German soldier named Walter Stennes remembered the moment fire ceased completely on Christmas Eve. At first he thought it was a trap. Then, across no man's land, he heard it, carols rising from the British trenches. A British soldier named Archibald Stanley waded out into no man's land and shook hands with a German who spoke with a perfect London accent. The German had been working in a London hotel when the war broke out. They stood there in the mud between the wires, shaking hands, and for a moment neither of them was a soldier. Across the front, the same thing was happening in dozens of separate places, independently, without coordination. Men exchanged cigarettes, plum pudding, buttons, photographs. They showed each other pictures of their families. They spoke, in broken English, broken German, and sign language, about home. A football appeared somewhere, then another. The laughter carried across the frost. One British soldier remembered a German turning to him before they parted and saying, "Today we have peace. Tomorrow you fight for your country. I fight for mine. Good luck." And then they went back to their trenches, and in a few days they picked up their rifles and aimed them at the same men they had stood beside in the mud and wished Merry Christmas. I have read everything I can find about this. I have read the letters, the memoirs, the accounts from both sides, and I still don't fully understand how they did it. The high commands on both sides were not moved by what had happened. They were horrified. British General Sir Horace Smith-Dorrien called the truce illustrative of the apathetic state we are gradually sinking into. The German High Command issued a formal order on December 29th, prohibiting any fraternization with the enemy. The following Christmas, aerial bombardments were organized specifically to drown out the sound of carol singing. It never happened again on this scale. The war had other plans. By the time the armistice came in November 1918, roughly 7 million people had been killed and 21 million seriously wounded. The men who shook hands in the mud on Christmas morning 1914 went back into a war that still had 4 years left to run. Many of them did not survive it. Here's what I keep coming back to. These weren't monsters. They weren't machines. One British officer wrote about the Germans. They are distinctly bored with the war. In fact, one of them wanted to know what on earth we were doing here fighting them. They sang together. They laughed together. They lit each other's cigarettes in the dark. And then they went back to their trenches and started killing each other again. How? How do you shake a man's hand on Christmas morning, look him in the eye, share a smoke, maybe kick a ball around in the mud, and then a day later pick up your rifle and aim it at him? I don't think the answer is that they were evil. I think the answer might be worse than that. I think they were us. They were people who had been handed a role, given an identity, soldier, enemy, German, British, and told that the role was more real than the moment they were standing in. And most of the time, they believed it, because most of the time the machinery of war made sure they stayed scared, cold, and far enough apart that the other side stayed abstract. Christmas cracked that open for exactly one day, and then the machinery closed back up. I don't know what that says about human nature. I honestly don't. But I think about those men, the ones who shook hands, who said good luck. I fight for mine. And I wonder if any of them ever figured it out either. What I do know is this. Something happened out there that no general ordered and no government planned. It came from the bottom up, from cold, exhausted, homesick people who, for one morning, decided to be human beings first. That's worth remembering.
The guns that carve the winter sky with thunder through the night. The mud was deep, the wire was cold, no end of it in sight. Then somewhere through the frozen air, a simple carol rose, a song both sides had learned as boys before they ever chose. One voice became another one, and 20, then 100 more, till hymns crossed over no man's land like they'd done years before. No bugle call, no orders came, no victory to claim. Just weary men with tired eyes, who all looked much the same. For one Christmas morning, the world remembered why. Peace came from Bethlehem beneath a starlit sky. No flags above, no kings below, no uniforms to see, just sons and brothers laughing there where death had used to be. If only for one Christmas morning, love broke through the fear. They traded bread and cigarettes, buttons, songs and names, showed faded photographs of home, and spoke of childhood games. A football rolled across the frost, the laughter carried far, and heaven found a battlefield beneath the Christmas star. No treaties signed, no generals bowed, no speeches filled the air, just ordinary men who chose to see each other there. For just one day, the Prince of Peace was stronger than the guns. For one Christmas morning, the angels won again. Their song reached every lonely trend, and fill the hearts of men. The war would come another dawn. The world still bore its scars, but nothing could erase the light that burned between the bars. For one Christmas morning, hope stood where hatred had been. For one Christmas morning, the peace on earth was more than just a dream. Some say the miracle was small, just one brief day. I say if Christmas could stop a war even once, its light can still find us today.